So I would go through my life, childhood, teenagers, adulthood, basically being mistreated by my entire family after my grandma passed. Um, it's crazy because going through something like that, you feel bad for yourself, of course, but in reality, all you want was for them to love you. So you do end up people pleasing. You do end up with traumas that you don't deserve to have. You know, you do end up with a lot. And she would be the reason that my husband died. She would also be the reason that his son and daughter and wife weren't able to file the life insurance that he left for us because she fraudulently claimed it after stealing it, after having someone assist her in stealing it. And she and my Uncle David, my mother's baby brother, would literally stand up in the hospital and lie and say that I murdered my husband. So for years, I've dealt with them trying to set me up for things I didn't do. Excuse me. All kinds of stuff. Being blamed for things I didn't do. When I was 12, it was the 4th of July, it's her birthday. And we were at my Aunt Nova's house on Sampson Street on the east side of Des Moines. And I told her, stop talking about my mom. Stop effing talking about my mom. And she went on to say something else. And I just remember beating the crap out of her and destroying my entire Aunt Nova's festivities and all her hard work. But I didn't feel sorry for beating her ass. I didn't. So years later, when she'd catch herself trying to get sleep, oh, I can fight now. Oh, I can fight now. Okay. And a couple of times she tried to approach me or whatever. And I just stood there because I knew that if she touched me, I was going to touch everything out there with her. You know what I mean? But I was going to be the one to swing first because I knew she was a cop caller. And I knew that she was a snitch. And she had been that for many years with the DEA and others. I remember one time I almost lost my life because she snitched on somebody. She literally set someone up. And because we share the same name, the guy didn't know that. And he thought it was me. And there was a hit out for me. And the only thing that stopped it by the grace of God was that. The guy that ordered it was sitting in the car wanting to see it happen, wanting to see it go down. And just as the guy had literally had the weapon to the back of my head, and before he could pull the trigger, the dude whistled and the dude stopped. And he's like, what is your name? And I told him. And he's like, nah, ma, you ain't the one. And I'm like, there's two of us. I'm Junior. I'm the little one. I'm the short, light, chunky one. She's a tall, Ethiopian, skinny one. And he was like, okay, where's she at? I said, I don't know. So imagine how I felt when DHS Andy Jones took upon herself to believe the hype and put my kids in her care. Because I'd always had these dreams that somebody would mistake me for her or my kids for hers. You know, she would go on to do harm to my kids. She would go on to hurt my son. And this bitch literally sat there and lied and said that my son had done something to my niece. And if it was not for my niece who stood up and said, it's your story, you tell it. But I had already called the police. Because if you're going to accuse my son of something, you're going to damn well know I have legal representation for him, but we're not running from shit. And that's what I did. Stood right there. She flew her ass out the door. The whole time she was a guilty party. She was the one assaulting these kids. And her lies and things to the courts. Like, she literally told the courts, this ain't the first time that she's done shit. And it's just amazing to me how crooked the state of Iowa is. And when I tell you crooked, the corruption runs so rampant in the state of Iowa, they still use the terminology retarded instead of mentally disabled or mentally handicapped. They refer to handicapped people as retarded. In their legal terminology, they still use it. There's no, and if you try to correct them, they get an attitude. I don't give a damn about these people here. I literally hate the state of Iowa because they have so many innocent men and women behind bars that didn't do the damn crime. There's so many unsolved murders here because they are lazy and they don't want to do their job. I literally had a cop tell me last week that your son's not dead. I'm like, are you a mom? Do you believe in God? That's why I asked him. I said, are you a mother and do you believe in God? And he's like, I'm not getting it. I said, well, motherfucker, you didn't talk to my son. And I said it just like that. Because I know a mother knows when her child's gone. Okay? And I know that they were hiding a death from me. They didn't want me to know about this death that occurred. They didn't want me to know about 2 deaths actually that occurred. My mom and my sons. She murdered my mom. She murdered my son. And the Millers and the Rhodes family, oh yeah, we got problems. But anyway, so they would stand up in the hospital and make it like I had murdered my husband. And that detective was well seasoned and knew his job and did his job correctly. And I remember hearing him say, do you see that? And they're looking at each other, and I remember him saying, that's the shit you don't find when someone's murdered somebody. When a husband's murdered his wife or a wife murdered his husband, you don't find raw emotion. I remember hearing that. But she was trying to deflect her guilt off onto me. And then when the coroner asked me if I wanted to see him again, I do. And everyone just looked at her like, bitch, what? You know? And it was just like you could tell that she is a sociopath, because people who have committed murders or crimes, period, always want to go back to the scene of the crime or get a thrill out of seeing the deceased, that they're responsible for taking their life. Seriously. And she's responsible for a lot of murders. Our matriarch and our patriarchs in our family, they aren't anymore because of her. On either side of my family. On my dad's side or on my mom's side, my aunt and uncles on my dad's side, his wife, his sister, and several others on my dad's side, and are responsible for the deaths of both my grandparents on my dad's side and my grandparents on my mom's side, Copa, and them are also responsible. And they have a coven. They partake in black magic and voodoo and witches and warlocks, and they worship the devil. Literally. And the biggest mistake I ever made was being so needy. I felt that I had dated a couple people, but it was like online, and a couple, I went and seen and shit, but those would be the worst mistakes I made. Okay, and that would be, I was dating John Burke at the time, and he's from Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth, and he had still been in the military or just gotten out or just re-enlisted. Either way it goes, he was supposedly be on a deployment, but in reality he wasn't. He was cheating, and he had passed his bunkie, you could say, Blake Hall, the phone and told him, oh, well, you sound like me, so that whatever, I knew the difference. Well, Blake came out and stated the truth. I was like, I already knew that, but okay, thank you. And he said, well, before you go, can I talk to you? I'm like, what do you want? And he's like, well, I'm really interested. I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't look at you like that. You know what I mean? I didn't say anything bad. I just told him, I'm like, I don't look at you like that. We could be friends. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, why'd I do that? Why'd I do that? Because 2018, 2019 were all hell was gonna break loose. And I'll be damned, 2020, there it went. As he said when he got out of the military, oh, fuck you, bitch, I got something for you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know, stupid me, when I started dating Brandon Stokes, because I knew Stokes because of his cousin Jody. Okay, I didn't know that all of these guys knew each other. All these guys were friends, or whatever you want to call them. I had 5 men come up against me. But in 2020, my identity was compromised because I used Blake Hall's service. And actually, I didn't want to use this service, just something in my soul told me not to. And I was like, I don't want to use those services. Can I just purchase my own? And I knew that he had done some shit because the Social Security officer was like, no, you can't. You have to do it now. And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, either that or use your survivor or lose your survivor benefits for you and your kids. I'm like, oh, get your supervisor. And that was like 2019. We were all forced. 2018, 2019, we were forced to get ID.me in order to keep your so-called benefits of the VA benefits or Social Security benefits or whatever from being able to be stolen. That's a joke. That was the biggest freaking Houdini, and it took forever for the government to even realize that they had been defrauded by their own people that they hired and trained as military personnel, law enforcement officers of every branch, literally. So I went through hell, okay? 2020 was December 23rd, 2020. I would say about a little after midnight. I get a message from Cash App because I was awaiting a freaking deposit to give my cousin Dwayne as a help towards his mom's services because we had lost my Aunt Robin to cancer. So we thought, truth was, my Aunt Copa killed her too. She did. With black magic. Yep. That's just what she did. And she collected life insurance. And people don't like to listen, but it's out. It's the truth. You're the only one that don't want to listen. She's been doing this for quite some time. And she did it to her own kids. Mm-hmm. Yep. She doesn't have the capacity to bond efficiently with her children like a mother should. Or to have those relationships where you have a bond. You know what I mean? She sees people as money, as dollar signs. They don't know. She has severe mental health issues and they are not treated. And people can say what they want to say, but I'm going to stand up and I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know that. I suspected it probably, but I didn't know it for certain until recent. And I had my feelings that she was connected to my identity theft, to my fraud, but I would not know that for several years. So 2020, I became a victim of identity theft. It was March 5th, I really believe, is when I turned around and I filed my police report with the Des Moines Police Department. And I had already started other processes, but I hadn't filed my police report yet. When I tell you these people had literally had assistance in defrauding and keeping shit under wraps, I mean that. They had been to Chickasaw County, Iowa. They had been to, I want to say another part of Iowa that isn't that far from me here. And they have all, like, who the hell goes to federal courthouses for little ass tickets and stuff? Nobody. Every one of these guys, they had a whole network of people. So COVID was intentional, and it was brought on by a group of people that are either A, active duty military or former active duty military. And leading up to COVID, they had 3 Asian Americans who were military personnel and who worked for the Pentagon. They had them hack into the system to see how long it would take for them to respond or know that something or someone was in the system. Okay, so they knew what not to do. Okay, so they had been planning this for quite some time. You had the spousal benefit scam that was a lie with the FBI officer Deborah Myers was connected to, collecting $600 at a time, up to $1,200 to $3,500 or more at different location Walmarts. You had, I watched these men literally groom these women and get them into these positions in law enforcement so that they would have people on the inside. Or have friends that they met along the way through these women that they've groomed. So they had people on the inside. These men are not men, okay? They're men who have bisexual tendencies, who have pedophilia. There are active pedophilia groups. They are children, products of the men and women who had the rocking horse symbol on their arm when we were young. That's their offspring. Those are the ones that have your secret societies connected to all that. And I wouldn't know all that until years later. Like I said, I was sitting here going, I was like 21 and I was actively looking into it and I wasn't into my own stuff, okay? The detective assigned, Jennifer Gross, she didn't do her job. She had made a deal and she was in too deep. And she closed my case before ever opening it, really. And I filed complaints against her. And she's going to be criminally charged because I'm going to damn sure make sure of it. And so 22, I would be back in Des Moines. Between 22 and 23, I'd be back in Des Moines and I'd be living in Des Moines again. And I had gotten a place at 3800 MLK, apartment 7 in Des Moines. So no, it was 23, 24 actually. And I signed up with $1 to do the ID strong dark web scan. And oh my God, well over 300 plus documents came out. And right before my eyes, I had those responsible for my identity theft. The identity theft of my mother, my father, my sister, my brothers, my children. They have a very intricate system. And they're involved in militias and the entire January 6th incident was truly a hit that was supposed to happen to Pelosi. But these idiots, I guess, don't realize Pelosi is mob connected. It'd have been a problem. So they stormed it as a way and a means to divert everyone's attention while they hacked into the Pentagon system and began to defraud the United States government. That's what they did. And I figured it out. And I didn't give a fuck. I wasn't going to be quiet about it. I was going to talk about it. And I was going to tell about it. What I didn't know was how deep these guys had gone. How far they would go. So, I've had death threats. I've had it all. But this is just a little summary of what I've endured. We'll get deep into my story. But these groups of people joined forces. My relatives on both sides of my family. And these 5 men who hated me because they couldn't be me. They were jealous, envious. And I would learn that I was a child bride. I would learn that they had been essaying me for quite some time. And I was passed down to Michael Gideon by his father, William Gideon. And his mother, Barbara Gideon, knew about it. And this woman is so disgusting that her son didn't even know that she set him up this whole time. His ending up with my aunt was intentional. So it's a lot of things that you guys are going to learn about. I don't look like what I went through. I'm grateful for that. So understand this is just a summary, and we'll dive deep into it. And I'll probably do that on a live. I'm thinking I'm going to do it on a live. That way you guys get to ask me questions, and we'll start at 2011 or whatever. But this is just a summary of what you're going to be getting when you talk to me and when I tell my story. And it'll have to be done in sections, okay? Because it's so detailed and it's so long and so vast, okay? But what I want from you is for you all to get the understanding and the strength to know that if I could rise up and get out of this, so can you.